Today we are going to have a look at the chapter motion along the straight line, and in IGCSE this chapter is known as Kinematics. Okay. So there are a few things that we are going to talk about in this chapter, which is displacement, distance, velocity, and acceleration. These are the important terms, things that you need to know. I think all of you should be familiar with these four things. So we are going to have a look on how to answer the question from this chapter. But before that, we are going to go through a few concepts. Okay, the first one. What is the difference between displacement and distance? Say you have a car, okay, and you want to travel back home. So you use a road and you reach home. So this is how much you travel, those total distance traveled, how much you move, how many kilometers, how many miles. So that is the total distance. But when we talk about displacement is the distance, not say distance, is it distance? But how short from the car, the shortest path from the car to the house. So this is the shortest path. So this is what we call as displacement. I'm sure that you have learned this in physics and probably in maths as well. We have scalar quantity. Scalar quantity. And also vector quantity. Example of scalar quantity is speed. For vector quantity is velocity. If scalar quantity is the distance, vector quantity is displacement. The difference between scalar quantity and vector quantity is that vector quantity has direction is important. Okay, so it means that we have negative, positive, value of velocity, value of displacement, value of acceleration. Okay. So when we talk about positive and negative value, let's see, we take maybe velocity. Okay, if we have positive velocity, means that positive velocity means that the value of v is greater than 0. Positive velocity. What does it mean by positive velocity when v is greater than 0? It means that let me resize this first. Okay, if we have positive velocity, what does it mean? It means that the object is moving towards right direction. So the object is going that direction. So this is V greater than 0. If V is less than 0, means that, so negative velocity. What does it mean? Means that object is moving towards left in direction, which means that the object is going the opposite way, going to the left. V less than 0, moving left. Okay. Now we go to displacement. What does it mean by displacement? Okay, displacement can be represented by the small letter s. Velocity can be represented by the small letter v. Acceleration can be represented by small letter a. Speed is just small letter s as well. Distance, small letter d. Okay, when we talk about displacement having s greater than 0 as positive, what does it mean by displacement being positive? Means that, suppose that we have a starting point O. This is not 0, this is O. O is just a starting point, or sometimes it's also called as fixed point. So when s is greater than 0, means that object is on the right of O, which means that displacement s is greater than 0. So the position of the object is on the right of O. If it is on O, if the object is on O, then s equals to 0. Okay, if the object is on O, then s equals to 0. Right of O, s greater than 0. On O, s equals to 0. If the object is on the left of O, the left of the fixed point, the initial point, the point that we mark as fixed point, then s is less than 0. So s equals to 0 means that s on point O, if s is less than 0, object. Okay, if s greater than 0, object on right of object lies on right of O. If s equals to 0, object lies on fixed point O. Less than 0, object is on lies on left of fixed point O. Okay. That if it's displacement. How about acceleration? Acceleration A If A is greater than 0, means that object is accelerating. If A is less than 0, then object is decelerating. If A equals to 0, no acceleration, no deceleration, I would say is either object is at rest or constant velocity. Okay. And I would also want to talk about relationship between displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Let's see. Okay. If we have displacement S, rate of change of displacement, the rate of change of displacement, so ds over dt, we differentiate displacement with respect to time, we will get velocity v. The rate of change of velocity over time, if we differentiate velocity, we will get acceleration A. And we know that integration is the reverse process of acceleration, differentiation. Means that from A to get V, we must integrate A with respect to t. From B to get S, we must V to get S, we must integrate V with respect to t. So in other words, V is just equals to ds over dt. A is just equals to dv over dt. And S is just equals to integration of V with respect to t. V is just also equals to integration of A with respect to t. Okay. Okay, now we are going to have a look at a few key points, important key points in the chapter. This first one is the initial. If you have the word initial displacement, or maybe initial velocity, or initial acceleration, what does it mean by the word initial? It means initial is the early. Okay, it's early displacement, early velocity, early acceleration. When object moves past, not say past, but yes, initial just means early. Okay. If we find the word the phrase initial displacement, initial velocity, initial acceleration, the first thing that we need to remember that for all these three, the value of t is equals to 0. T is time. We cannot confirm that S is equals to 0. We cannot confirm that V is equals to 0. We cannot confirm that A is equals to 0, because at initial point, initial displacement, an object can start slightly further from fixed point O. It can start maybe 20 meters from fixed point O. So at initial displacement, we cannot guarantee that S equals to 0. And the object doesn't have to start on O, or the fixed point. So as velocity, initial velocity, the early velocity, the object can passes through point O at certain speed, so it doesn't have to start from rest, so v doesn't have to be 0. So does acceleration. So at initial displacement, the constant thing is time, t is equals to 0, not else. Okay. And before this, we've talked about displacement less than 0 means that object is on the left of fixed point O. If as displacement is greater than 0, means that the position of the object is on the right side of O, which is O is the fixed point. This is a fixed point, okay, or starting point. So S less than 0, object on the left of O. S greater than 0, object is on the right of O. And I forgot to add another one. If S equals to 0, then object is on O. Okay, object is on O. If S equals to 0, means that the object is fixed point O lies exactly on O. Then S equals to 0. Right, and then we've talked about object change direction, talk about turning point. So when this happen, when an object, say we throw something up, it stops first, then only it change direction. It needs to stop. That's why v equals to 0. So, and we know that this is turning point. Before it turns, the object needs to stop first. So v equals to 0. So when object change direction, or at turning, or instantaneous at rest, or maximum and minimum, not say distance, point, maximum or minimum velocity, I would say. Maximum or minimum velocity. Is it maximum or minimum distance? V is equals to 0. Okay. And then total distance traveled. I'm going to talk about this later, but when we deal with total distance traveled, first we must check if there is any turning points or not. Okay, if we want to find total distance traveled. And maximum velocity. So if you have v against t at maximum velocity, obviously gradient equals to 0. Hence, you know that dv over dt is just equals to a equals to 0. So at maximum velocity, dv over dt is equals to 0, or a is equals to 0. And we have looked also, if value of v is greater than 0, then the object is moving towards the right direction. If v is less than 0, then object is moving towards the left direction. For example, you have this object. Okay, this is your fixed point O. The object is moving this direction, means that v is less than 0. Maybe v is equals to negative 20 meter per second. If the car is moving towards that direction, then v should be greater than 0. Example, v maybe equals to 20 meter per second. Okay. So the last one, if value of a is greater than 0, then we will have, I would say, acceleration. If a is less than 0, deceleration. If A equals to 0 means that maybe object is at rest, or maybe constant velocity, no acceleration. Okay, just add that one. So these are the important concepts that you need to know. Now we are going to have a look at a few examples on how to answer the questions.